I've been on a personal development journey over the past couple of years, which has made me realize there's a few things within the Islamic tradition that seems to be getting missed out in what we get taught about Islam. We get taught about so much about Islam, but there's a few things that seem to be missing. All right, and I only realized these things after I study like Western science and Western like even Buddhism, and I studied Buddhism and I studied all these other religions, and then I started to realize the gems within Islam after I started to venture out a little bit, and it's actually grounded me and enriched my experience of Islam a lot more when I started to venture outside. I had a quote the other day while I was talking to somebody who studies religions, and he said to me that the person who only studies one religion knows no religions. If you only know one religion, then you know no religions, because you understand religions by actually understanding all of them and then seeing how you can compare one to another. And that was a very interesting perspective that was shared. Now, to begin today, I'm going to start with a question. Has anybody heard of something called the marshmallow test?
No.
Yes, Yahya.
I've never heard of that.
You've never heard of the marshmallow test? Anyone else? Anyone who's heard of the marshmallow test? Okay, seems like nobody knows what the marshmallow test is. Now, the marshmallow test actually happened in 1972, where they took a bunch of children under the age of probably about 7 years old, under the age of 7 years old. They all sat them inside a room where they were alone. It was just the one child sat at a table, and they put one marshmallow in front of them. And they said, listen, I'm about to leave the room and I'll be back soon. They didn't tell them when, they just said, I'll be back soon. If you don't eat that marshmallow, by the time I come back, I'm going to give you 2 marshmallows. And then they left the room. Now, what do you think happened?
Actually, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I take that back. I actually remember the experiments.
Go on.
But not in too much detail. But I remember that some kids did eat the marshmallow and some didn't. And I think that was like showing how like they were disciplined in some sense.
Good point.
That's what I remember really.
Fantastic. Does anybody else have any sort of recollection of this experiment? Very good, Yahya. You basically you're almost there. Anybody else? Seems like it's just me and you, Yahya. So the marshmallow experiment, like Yahya said, it was a test of these kids' discipline. And what they did, they put a marshmallow on the table and they left the room. They didn't tell them when they're going to come back. And what they did is these kids, they took a note of the kids who ate the marshmallow straight away and the kids who didn't eat the marshmallow, and actually waited for whenever that adult was going to come back, and then they got 2 marshmallows. Then they left those kids alone. They let them go live their lives. Almost 20 years later, they caught up with these kids, and they decided to ask them, what is your salary? What's your income at the moment? To try and get a measure of success of these young kids back then when they were under 7 years old. Now, when they're almost 27, in their mid-adult range, what was their salaries? And guess what they discovered? You had some kids that did eat the marshmallows and some kids that didn't eat the marshmallows. Some kids that were actually, you know what, like, I don't care. I'm just going to go the easy way out. I'm just going to eat it right now. No. And they just ate it. Other kids that thought, no, if I don't eat it and if I wait, actually in the future, I'm actually going to get more marshmallows. I'm going to get more rewards. So that's a concept called delayed gratification. Now, delayed gratification is that when you wait for something in the future that might come better, those kids that actually waited versus those kids that didn't wait, who do you think had the biggest salary when they caught up with them 20 years later? Yes, Yahya. So you've unmuted.
Well, I think from what I remember, the kids that didn't eat the marshmallow, they were showing delayed gratification. Those were the ones that had the highest salaries.
Absolutely. Just show it. Yes, go on.
then vice versa. The ones that, of course, did eat the marshmallow real quick. That's the ones that had it all.
100%, 100%. In that moment, what the experimenters were doing is they were testing whether these kids had the discipline to hold on to their desires in the moment for an eventual reward. Now, does this remind you of anything? Does this sort of concept of hold yourself right now for a reward at some point in the future, does that remind you of anything?
Yes.
Go on.
This constant fight between dunya and akhirah, would you say?
Exactly. Constant battle that Allah has put us in, where you have the right now, you can indulge in the dunya, or you can abstain from the dunya, you can hold back, and then at some point in akhirah, you can have fun, you can actually indulge. That's those two marshmallows in the future. But heaven was only double what it was on this earth.
Yeah.
Then you know what? It's probably not that worth it. But in reality, heaven is like 10 times fold. Much more than 10. Millions, gazillions more. We can't even imagine what the future would be in the akhirah. And that is the beauty of delayed gratification. It's the waiting now. But Islam is built upon that. Islam is built upon testing us to say, well, this is halal and this is haram. But something that I was talking about earlier of what I didn't get to in Islam is that why? Like, why do I have to do delayed gratification? What is the purpose of delayed gratification? What is the purpose of holding myself right now so that in the future I might get more? What's the purpose of that? And that's one thing that I felt like was really lacking from our education as youth. Because what we get taught very clearly is this is halal and this is haram. But nobody tells us that actually the reason why you have to not do the haram thing is because even in this life, you're going to be getting X, Y, and Z if you decide to hold back, if you decide to delay your gratification. You see, in life, there's always two options. You have the easy way and you have the hard way. There's always two options. You have the easy way and you have the hard way. Who here works? If you work, write in the chat or just put your hand up. I'm not sure what you can do on Google Meet, but if you work, let me know. Give me a signal. Either write something in the chat, give me a thumbs up in the chat. Yeah, Mina works. Who else works? Who else goes to work? Who else has like a 9 to 5 where they come home after 5 o'clock? Yahya doesn't work. Yahya's living his best life. Anyone else? Mina comes home at 8. All right, well, there you go. See, when you come home from work, you have a few options, right? Let's say you haven't worked out, all right, and you want to work out and you want to improve your physical health, but you also want to sit on Netflix and you want to flick through the TV, see what series are on Netflix. Now, I said earlier, there's always the easy way out and the hard way out. Which one is the easy way out? Which one's the hard way out in this situation? The easy way out? Yes,
easy way. Watching Netflix, yes, and then just relax. Netflix.
Now, what happens? Now, let's entertain this. If you decide, you know what, I'm just going to take the easy way out, what will end up happening? You come home, you sit in front of Netflix, and you start flicking through Netflix. Now, what else is the easy way out? You can either go cook yourself a nice, healthy meal, or you got donuts, crisps, all this junk food that's in your house as well. Which one's the easy way out? Which one's the hard way out?
Getting junk food. Also takeaways as well.
All the takeaway, exactly. What's your favorite takeaway, Yahya?
Oof. Put me in the spot. I'd say a nice kebab. Probably would do it for a night.
With like lots of sauce, drenched in sauce, yeah?
Yeah, that would do it for me.
That'll do it for me as well, to be honest. And with Ramadan around the corner, I think we need to get those desires in now before we can't have it. But the fact is that you have the easy way out, which is just indulge. Just live right now. Don't worry about the future. Don't worry about future Yahya who's gonna have to deal with, being brain numb because they watched you Netflix all day and that's eating all this junk food. And I don't mean this just about you, Yahya, but just in general. Like, if you just indulge in what you want right now, just in this life, forget the hereafter, forget the hereafter. Just look at this life. If you just indulge in what you want right now in this life, then this is gonna be an overview of what my life would look like. I'm gonna wake up, pick up my phone and go scrolling through Netflix, go scrolling through Instagram, because that's my current urge and desires. Then I'm gonna probably not get out of bed because getting out of bed is hard, and staying in bed is nice and comfortable and nice and cozy. So I'm gonna stay in bed, and then I'm gonna get out of bed, and you know what? Brushing my teeth is long, so I'm just gonna ignore that because I can't bother. So I'm just gonna go straight downstairs. Then I'm gonna get downstairs, and instead of having a nice proper meal, I'm just gonna binge on whatever food there is in the fridge, and then going to work is so long. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to study. So instead of going to work today, I'm just going to sit down and watch Netflix. That's the way out. First of all, if somebody dies and you live the whole life by just taking the easy route, just in this life, forget the hereafter. What is the meaning of their life? What's the point? What's the point?
Good question.
Did their life have meaning? Yes or no?
Gonna probably feel like wasted a bunch of time.
What makes you say that?
Could have done more. You could have achieved more, probably, if you used your time in a better way, not doing the easy way.
Absolutely, yeah. Who else? Who else has something to share with us? Yahya, thank you. I really appreciate all your inputs, man. You're saving the day today. So Yahya is taking the hard way out. Everyone else taking the easy way out. Yeah? Is that right, Yahya?
Apparently.
Who wants to do the difficult thing right now? Who wants to step in and share their opinion? What do you think of somebody who lives their whole life like that? What are your thoughts about them? And I want you to speak. We all have mouths. Everybody's got a mouth here. The chat is great, but let's talk. Oh, you're a tough crowd. You're a tough crowd. Yeah, of course you can talk, Mina. Please unmute yourself and jump right in.
Can you hear me?
Wa alaikum assalam. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I have a question. Since you're talking about the routine and stuff, now that Ramadan is going to be started soon, Pakistan, and it's gonna be the day after tomorrow here.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about the routine stuff. We do have a very bad routine, waking up in the morning and jumping straight on Instagram just to scroll through the mindless scrolling, just, not getting anything in return and just wasting our time. Starting our day by the that wastage of time. So in Ramadan, what should we do to avoid that? Because obviously the routine is going to be totally changed. We're gonna wake up early for suhoor, and probably some of us might not even sleep the entire night, watching Netflix or I don't know what. So how should we avoid all of that?
What do you think would be the most valuable thing that you can do in the morning when you wake up, Mina, during Ramadan?
Obviously, in Ramadan, as we all try to be more and more spiritual, so I think something related to our spirituality.
Okay, for example?
For example, just waking up in the morning and saying your salawat to the Imam of our times, Imam Ajalla Barja Sharif. I think that's the best way to start your day, whether it's Ramadan or whether it's just any other day.
Absolutely. And the question is that the easy way out or not really?
I think that's the easiest way. It takes, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds just to say your salam, right? But what would be the hard way? Okay, even if it's not the hard way, but what would be the way that's valuable enough for, to gain something out of that month, which would go with us for the rest of our lives, maybe?
That's a very good point that you make. What's the most valuable thing that will stay with me for the rest of our lives? The most valuable thing is to actually not do something that's too difficult so that you can try and turn it into a habit. Because if you do something that's so extravagant that you're only ever going to be able to keep it up for 30 days, then it's not going to help the rest of your life because it's only going to help you right now.
True.
But if you are able to use the next 30 days as a way of trying to build a small little habit into your life, what do you think that's more valuable, or do you think that doing something extravagant? Okay, like for example, I'll tell you, if I wanted to lose weight, is it better to run 10, let's say run 5 kilometers a day in Ramadan, or walk a mile or 2 miles in Ramadan and continue after Ramadan to walk 1 or 2 miles every single day? What's more beneficial on the overall scale of my life?
Obviously the baby steps are more valuable, as obviously you're trying to build a routine for yourself. Baby steps are more important. Maybe you're not doing something so extravagant or so prodigious, which might, maybe you're able to do for a day or two or a week, let's say.
Mm.
But eventually you're going to lose that up. You're not going to keep up walking for 5 miles a day, obviously. So even if you're walking like 1 kilometer a day or half a kilometer, you say, that's, I think, okay. That's pretty much fine. You don't have to be so hard on yourself, trying to build up a routine for yourself.
Yeah. And there's actually a hadith that talks about this, and maybe somebody small that's continuous is better than something large that's sporadic. There's a hadith in Arabic that the words have left my mind, but there's a hadith that specifically says this. Doing something small over a very long period of time is better than doing something large for a short period of time. But we've sort of taken a bit of a tangent off the main discussion, but it's very good because it actually feeds perfectly into this. Is that we were talking about what happens if you just take the easy way out every single time. Is that your life, people were writing in the comments, is that they don't really have much meaning, right? When I asked, will their life have meaning, people were saying no. Now let's turn it upside down. What if actually every single day you don't take the easy way out? You take the disciplined, you take the difficult thing. For example, you wake up every morning, you go for a run. Then you come back, instead of taking a normal shower, you take a cold shower. After the cold shower, instead of going on Instagram and scrolling, you pick up a book and you read. Every choice in life, if you start to choose the more difficult one, what will be the output of this individual?
A lot more productive.
Okay, what else?
Because going back to the point they said earlier, for the people that decide to take the easy way, I was thinking that those people will most likely have a lot of regrets once they make it. Like if they're about to die, or like if they make it later in life, like I should have probably done this, I should have done that, etc. You probably don't want to have a lot of regrets.
Absolutely. And also, not only will they have, like, okay, you say they'll be very productive, but let's actually just take a small snippet of your life. Yahya, if for the next 1 year, every single day, you did this routine where you woke up and you did the hard thing every single day. You went and you worked out and you read and you avoided your telephone and you did, like, you studied all day every day and you did all these difficult things. Yahya in 1 year, how is he going to compare to Yahya today?
It's gonna be miles ahead. I can't tell you that much.
Will he be the same Yahya?
No. Probably be a much better version, most likely.
Is that not beautiful? That actually,
Yeah.
in taking the difficult thing, you actually change as an individual. You become a different person.
Mhm.
You can actually become a different person by doing the difficult thing. Why? Now, this is where the concept, where sort of the modern understanding of personal development starts to overlap with Islamic understanding of personal development. Everybody knows what the comfort zone is, right? Or does everybody know what the comfort zone is? Let me know, yes or no, in the chat. Yahya, do you know what the comfort zone is?
I believe so.
Okay. So, how would you define the comfort zone?
Doing stuff that are easy for you, and then I guess each person has their own easy stuff that they can do. So it probably change from person to person. I guess that'll be the thing.
The easy way. Muhammad Mehdi also is commenting. Absolutely, you're right. It's the easy way. It's the path of least resistance. It's the waking up, going on Netflix, and not doing the difficult thing. When you hear the adhan, not getting up. It's easier just to sit down and not get up to pray than it is to actually get up and pray. All these little choices, these are the comfort zone. It's also easy, it's a lot easier to when you want to do a presentation at work, to actually not do the presentation and just tell your friend to do it, and then you can just sit in the crowd and watch him do it. That's the comfort zone. But if you get up and you stand on stage and you do the presentation, that's you stepping outside of your comfort zone. This is the difference between what's easy and what's hard. Now, in Islam, we get taught we get taught, you have the halal and you have the haram. And the haram is to avoid what's hard. And that is us disciplining ourselves to make sure that we constantly are stepping out of our comfort zone, because the comfort zone sometimes it sucks you in the same way that we get taught in Islam that inna an-nafsa la'ammaratan bis-su', that is your comfort zone. That's the voice inside your head that's saying it's okay, nobody's watching, do it anyway. That is the nafs that's going to constantly try and bring you towards the easy way, the way of the shaitan, the way of being lazy. And what we spoke about earlier is that if you could nothing, like you're not going to have the highest output of your life. But if you decide to avoid what's haram, then you're taking the difficult route. And when you're taking the difficult route, now you're stepping outside your comfort zone. You're going to physically feel like it's uncomfortable to avoid this haram. It's uncomfortable to actually go and do jihad nafs and fight yourself so that you don't do this thing. But what did we say earlier as well? What did Yahya say? That if you do the thing that's difficult day in, day out, day after day after day after day after day, in a year's time, are you the same person? No, you're a completely different person. You're transformed because you decided to take the difficult way out. The comfort zone is here in the middle. But outside that circumference of the comfort zone, you start to have the growth zone. That's where you grow. This is why Islam teaches us halal and haram. Because if we didn't have the guidelines of halal and haram, that's like not knowing the difference between what's your comfort zone or what's your stretch zone, what's your growth zone. Islam, the fundamentals of Islam have been built upon this philosophy of doing what's hard and avoiding what's easy. This is why Islam is so beautiful, because it tells us that this is for our hereafter. It tells us that do this for Yawm al-Qiyamah, but in actuality, that part of the reason why you do this is for this life as well. Because if you avoid what's haram and you do what Allah's told you, then you will have to put yourself outside your comfort zone. That's part of the process. That's part of the process of Jihad Nafs, of when your soul is telling you, no, it's okay, just be comfortable, do the easy thing. The Jihad Nafs, the biggest war, the biggest jihad, is that war on the inside. And if you win that war, then you become the master. But what happens when you lose in a war? What happens?
Like you have to start from scratch.
You start from scratch, or if the other person takes you as a captive, what do you become? Imagine, think about back in the days when they used to take war criminals, like war captives. What did they become? They became like slaves. Exactly, they became slaves. Someone wrote in the comments, you become a slave. Now, if you constantly take the easy way out, that means you've lost the Jihad Nafs. If you always do the easy way and you always listen to your nafs, your ego that's telling you do this, do the easy one, then you lose the biggest war. So what does that make you?
Can I say something?
Yes, Mina.
You actually become a prisoner to yourself, and once you're a prisoner to yourself, there's no way back. Okay, you literally start doing all the things that take you away from God. It might sound very easy, or it might look very easy at start, but eventually every steps get harder and harder and harder. And then one day when you look back, you have done, so much wrong, you could say, and then it's not gonna take you. It's not gonna be so easy for you to go back even. So once you become the slave of your own self, once you become the prisoner of your own mind or your own thoughts, you don't see the good and the bad, the difference between the good and the bad, the difference between halal and haram. So, yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Maina. Absolutely. You became a slave of yourself. The voice inside your own head is like a slave. You can't even stop the voice inside your own head. Your nefs says do this and you just do it. And the output is you stay inside your comfort zone. You never like try and avoid haram, you just indulge in haram, and you become so far away from God that even the thought of stepping outside your comfort zone is so scary. And you're the fact that you're a slave, you have this victim mentality that you don't even ever want to go there. You never want to go there. You just become like in this shell of like, that's when your soul is so black that it's like it's so difficult to see the light. But when we come back to this topic of jihad and nafs, if in the battle against yourself you win, all right, and this I remind myself of this before I remind any of you. This is a lecture to myself before it is a lecture to any of you, just to let you guys know, yeah. If in that moment when you have the easy way out and you have the hard way out, and your nafs is telling you, come on, take the easy way out, stay in your comfort zone, do the easy one. Like don't do what's hard, do what's easy. And you lose, and you win in jihad nafs. If you as a slave, someone who is
Free.
somebody who's free. So if you maintain discipline, what do you gain? What do you become free?
Freedom.
Actually, when you are able to master your own desires and say no to when your desires come up, you just push them to the side. Now you have the ultimate level of freedom where you are so disciplined that you are free. That's like to the point where, you know, when we look at our imams and stuff, the shaitan didn't even try. He's like, these lot they've mastered their desires so much, it's like a waste of time for me to even try and win them over because they're free. They're free from these desires. They're free from this lust. It's like if what is it? Ata'ani takun mathali. Devoting your life to God happens in those moments of discipline. It happens in those moments of jihad and nafs. And when you win, when you actually win over those things, then not only do you become free, but you become a reflection of God. And when you become a reflection of God, that means you are the most articulate, the most well-spoken, the most knowledgeable, the most giving, the most kind. You become like the most beautiful creation on earth. And it all comes down to what? Those moments when we're torn between taking the easy way out and taking the hard way out. We take the easy way out, we become the slave. We become so far away from God, we become unrecognizable to the Salat al-Mustaqim. Whereas if you take the difficult way out, if you do what's hard, if you stay disciplined, then the result of that is freedom. And not only freedom, but you become a reflection of Allah and you manifest all of Allah's beauty on earth. And that is the most beautiful thing.
Can I add something?
Yes, Mina, please.
Uh, a human being is called Ashraful Makhlukat. Human has been given the stature higher than the angels themselves, right? But you don't be an Ashraful Makhlukat just like that. You have to work on you have to do actually the Jihad nafs. You have to win that side of yours, which is continuously dragging you, pushing you towards this worldly desires and stuff. You have to really work on yourself, and you have to first win the battle where it's you against you. Then you can be somewhat of an actual human being. We may call ourselves human, but I don't think so that we much do the stuff which makes us human.
What do you mean
Human
by
as
that?
in like genuine human. As in, I mean, we always call ourselves Ashraful Makhlukat because God has given us the stature of being somewhat higher than the angels. But angels always follow the instructions of God,
Mm.
right? But we, because we are constantly in a battle against our own selves, we are so indulged in this worldly life or its desires, that we continuously, choose the easy way, which is actually dragging us towards doom, right? And what, it's very easy to call yourself human being, but it's actually, I think, takes a big heart to be a human, and where you have to constantly try to win the battle where it's you against you.
And that's why Jihadul Akbar is Jihadul Akbar. Jihad, like the battle of yourself, is the bigger jihad, and not the battle against anyone else. Like, doesn't that show us the beauty of our religion? The fact that the ultimate jihad, the ultimate struggle, isn't against anyone else except for you. And I think that's so like applicable to so many things in life, because a lot of people have a problem where they have become anxious, to have anxiety because they're constantly comparing themselves to other people. But Allah tells us, like, no, listen, forget everyone else. All you need to fight, the only person you need to try and win over each day is yourself. That is Jihadul Akbar. Don't worry about anyone else. That's the smaller jihad. The bigger jihad is you. Like, that inwardly approach to development is what the essence of Islam. Like, that is exactly what Prophet Muhammad came to do. He came to teach us makarim al-akhlaq, so that we can improve our being, like to become the best versions of ourselves. And we become the best versions of ourselves by disciplining ourselves, by taking the difficult way and not the easy way, because that way we start to actually move towards becoming a reflection of Allah, rather than actually drifting away from that. Now, the amazing thing is that in Islam, a lot of people, when you ask them, like, and their own belief gives us a little tap on the shoulder and gives us a reminder about how disciplined we truly can be. And that comes in the form of a Ramadan. Because in Ramadan, nobody has to be motivated to fast, right? Who here relies on motivation to fast in Ramadan? Who wakes up in the morning and is like you're just sitting there, like staring at the food, going, like, please, no. You don't rely on motivation in Ramadan. What do you rely upon in Ramadan instead? And we'll take all the questions in the end, by the way. Let's just get the passage and then we'll open up for questions. What do you rely upon in Ramadan? Do you rely on motivation? So you have to please God, of course. What do you rely upon? Yes, yeah.
Would you say? I don't want to say free. Would you say your own will? Like use your own will to?
Your will.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a cheap answer, so I don't know.
Well, what do you mean by your will?
Well, because you have to make the intention to fast and to get through Ramadan is like, so like it gets accepted. So it's kind of like you willingly doing this to then please Allah, and then it comes with all the benefits at the end.
And it seems like it's a lot easier during Ramadan to make the choice of saying, no, I'm not going to eat. And then once you make the choice, why is it so easy for us to make the choice in Ramadan to say, well, we're not going to eat for 30 days, even though that's a very difficult thing to do for a human being?
I'd say
for the rest of the world, for the rest of the year, it's so difficult to say, I'm going to go to the gym and keep out for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that this becomes so natural, comes so naturally?
I feel like there's probably two reasons to this, at least from my point of view. It's probably the reason why it's easier is because a lot more people around you are all doing it. So then you feel this sense of togetherness and community. And then the other reason is most likely because Ramadan is associated with all of this rewards that you can get, both spiritually and physically. Then everyone would probably feel more motivated to do it.
And also, you understand those rewards. You really understand, like,
the value. Yes,
it's been drilled into you, the understanding of, well, this month is a special month, and you know that you actually understand, you comprehend how important this month is. So it's like a switch that gets flicked in your head that goes, you know what, I get it. And then it doesn't. Is it hard? Who finds fasting in Ramadan like super difficult? Does anybody find fasting in Ramadan like extremely difficult, even like after like 2 weeks?
The actual fasting, as in abstaining from food and drinking.
Yeah,
that's probably. I'd say that's probably the easiest part of the whole month.
What's the hardest part?
Sticking and creating the spiritual habits that you then need to carry on for the rest of your life. That's the hardest bit, in my opinion.
Yeah. Even though, like, absolutely, you're right, absolutely. And I feel like in Islam, in Ramadan, when a white person like asks you, oh my god, like are you really gonna not eat and drink for 30 days? For them, that's like impossible. Like, what, are you crazy? Like, you're really not gonna eat all day? You're not gonna drink water either? Like, to them, they see that as such an impossibility. But because we understand why we're doing it, it becomes the easiest part of the whole process. Why?
Yeah.
Because we understand the reason why. We know in our hearts why it is that we're doing this. And that's the thing when it comes to discipline. See, that's when the discipline flick gets switched in our heads. We go from relying on motivation to just going, you know what, flick the switch. I'm going to be disciplined on this thing because I actually understand why we're doing it. And in the same way, in the rest of our lives, if we start to understand the true meaning, why we need to read Quran, and I speak to myself again first, why we need to learn, why we need to be kind to our parents, why backbiting is so bad, why is it that we should do this and this and this and all these other things, you start to understand the reason why. In the same way, eating and drinking becomes so easy in Ramadan, it'll become a lot easier for us to keep up these actual daily habits, because it all comes down to the fundamental why. Once you understand the reason why something is, then you could embrace that. Some of you may know of a guy called Simon Sinek, and he always says, start with why. Always ask yourself in the beginning, why? And then the how and the what becomes a lot easier. So that was the main sort of messages that I wanted to bring across to you today. I really wanted to show you the parallels between Islam and halal and haram and the basic, very binary system that we get taught in young age, and try and start to explain that in a personal development perspective. Because from a personal development perspective, this is exactly what you need. You need the discipline, but we get taught it in a very like, I feel like they don't teach us the depth. Maybe just my upbringing. I never got taught the depth of why we get taught halal and haram. But actually, the roots of it is so that we can start becoming human beings with more discipline to choose the more difficult path, because the more difficult path is what will give you the best this life and the next akhirah altogether. So that was, alhamdulillah, that was the message that I wanted to get across. And now we're going to go on to questions. So if anybody has any questions, drop them in the chat. I saw 2 questions earlier. I'm just going to scroll up. Yes, Yahya, do you want to say something?
Now I was only thinking that, when you mentioned earlier that how Islam teaches us from a young age this concept between haram and halal, it just puts the boundaries already. It doesn't, people normally don't tell you much about it. I was reading like this book called The Productive Muslim that I just finished reading. I don't know if you ever heard about it.
Nope, I'm writing that down. I'm gonna get my hands on it. That sounds right up my street.
It's really good, because I've been going through this journey like in the past couple of months, trying to get my life together a little bit more before Ramadan. And there is this concept that Islam really is set up in a way to bring the most out of a person in the lifetime, if you really choose to take onto the stuff that Islam teaches. And then essentially, if I could summarize the book in one line, it'll probably be, if you can master the basics of Islam, like salats and stuff like that, like essentially the 5 daily prayers, everything else will become so much easier. Because if you think about it, if you master the 5 daily prayers, that's a lot of discipline in itself for the rest of your life, lifetime. So then everything else will become easier after that.
Wow, that's a very beautiful way of putting it. And bro, I've written it in capitals in my journal now. And if you want, bro, reach out to me after this on Instagram or wherever. I'd love to have a conversation about sort of this journey that you've been on, because it sounds fascinating.
It's a very good book, I must say. And he also teaches talks about a lot of other stuff. There's also a chapter about how to deal with productivity in Ramadan. And yeah, because if you like go on YouTube and you type productivity, for example, a lot of it comes from a perspective of a lot of people that are not Muslim. Like you see these all, I don't know, Matt Diavellas and all of these other people,
Ali Abdal,
and yeah, it's very good insights. But like, what's the point of view of a Muslim? Like, so where does Salat fit into this? Where does reading Quran fit into this? And then all of that stuff that comes with it. And like this book, I think it does a really good job putting all of this together.
Subhanallah. In that same thought process that you've had, I've had as well. And for me, it's not just productivity, but it's more about personal development.
Mm-hmm.
When I've read so many personal development books. You know, my shelf is full of personal development books, talking about gratitude, talking about meditation, talking about all these different concepts. And every time I read something, I resonate with it from an Islamic perspective, but I just don't see a book that tells me this stuff from an Islamic perspective. I feel like I need to connect the dots in my own head. But personally, I'm on a mission, inshallah. One day, I'd love to write a book where I bridge the gap between the Western personal development world and the Islamic personal development world.
Yeah, agreed.
Inshallah. Perfect. Let me just go through the questions briefly. Has anybody got any questions as well? Please drop them in the chat. We are just going to go through the question. Would there be any situation where the easy way is the better option? Who asked this question? If you don't mind,
Yes. Okay, so it's just that like the thought that I had is you know, in life we're like faced with so many different situations that we have to deal with, and I don't know, but in my perspective it's not like always 100% that you could say the difficult way is mainly the correct path, you could say. So like you could have maybe the easy way is the better alternative, where you could get like the same result, you could say, or even a better result by basically doing less, or like I don't know. It's just I was wondering if the easy way would ever be the better option compared to the hard way in any different situation.
Very good question, and I think it's a very well thought through question. The perspective that I like to look at this particular thing is from a personal development perspective of if we fast forward till tomorrow, will I be a better person if I took the easy way, or will I be a stronger minded person, somebody who's learned more, somebody who's more wise if I took the easy way or the hard way? That's what I like to think about. I'm trying to think of an example where maybe taking the easy way is what will get you to the point where actually you are wiser, you're stronger, and you are a more well-rounded person. But I think that one of the core messages that I've discovered throughout my personal life is that this world, this dunya, is here for you to this world is suffering. The definition of this life that we're living is to suffer. And it may sound strange at first, but the reality is that the more you suffer in life, the more meaning life gets, because the more you'll have to struggle in pursuit of something meaningful. Like if everything is just like easy, then there isn't enough meaning. Like this is how I like to think about it. And I feel like if we look within Islam at Imam Hussein's journey, for example, and he went through so much. Like Imam Hussein got slaughtered on the desert in Karbala. And when they asked him, like, what do you think? He said, when they asked him, was Zainab, alayhi salam, what did she think? She said, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila, because actually it's the difficult, suffering path that actually gives your life more meaning. If you do the easy way out in life, then you're not leaving enough of a dent on this world. Like you're not leaving behind your mark if you take the easy way out. If you want to leave your mark on this world, then I don't think the easy way out can ever let you do that. So there's two perspectives. Number one, the impact you can have on the world. If you want to have a real impact on the world, then the easy way out won't let you do that. And the other thing is that if you really want to develop yourself and become the best version of yourself, then the easy way out won't let you do that. And that's this is the conclusions that I've come to. But if somebody is willing to prove me wrong, then I'll
Can I just add one thing in it?
Yeah, go for it.
I think life is about suffering. You have to suffer one way or the other way. You just have to choose your suffering, that what kind of suffering would shape you into a better version of yourself, which suffering would make your life more valuable, which would
Mm,
add more worth and value to your life. Because I think at the end of the day, every one of us is suffering one way or the other. We all
mm.
have our different journeys, we all have our different struggles. So I think we should focus on the suffering that which would make us the better version of ourselves, which would even bring us closer to God. And we have to choose our suffering wise enough. I was reading somewhere that this life is all about suffering, because the life that this world that has not even given Imam Hussein alayhi salam, water, what that word is going to give to you, it has nothing to offer to you. The word which has not even given the water to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, what do you expect from this word that it will give to you?
Very good point. Very good point. What do you think, Mr. Jabs 77?
Yeah, yeah, I feel convinced just because the thought where that I had when I asked the question is, for example, and you have two ways, and both of you will get you to the finish line, but one has more obstacles to the other. So, like,
Mm,
when a situation that would give you the same outcome, wouldn't it better to choose like the path where it has less obstacles? Because I don't know, maybe it will. I don't know. It just feels like that's the better option. Like when you have the same outcome, and
mm.
it just has less obstacles, and you can reach it faster and have the same benefit, even if you took the hard way.
But in the context of if the person who's running that marathon decided to sign up for that marathon not just for the medal in the end, but so that they can transform themselves into an absolute beast in the process, which one is the right way to choose?
Okay, then it would be the hard way, because if you can overcome it, then everything less harder would become easier. So you
Exactly.
could say it's all about your target. Say,
Exactly. And like whose target in life isn't to become the best version of yourself? Like the most noble target to have is to say, I am trying, by the day I die, I want Allah to tell me, you know what, Muhammad, you pushed yourself to the point where you actually became the best version of yourself that you could have become. Anything less, then you didn't push yourself hard enough. Then you took a shortcut. And because you took that shortcut, you didn't grow into the person that you should have become. There's an amazing story by has anybody here heard of David Goggins? David Goggins is like an ultra marathon runner, like super crazy guy. And he gives the story, which is beautiful, which says that on the day of judgment, imagine you're on the day of judgment and there's a long line, and you're standing in this line, and everybody's waiting to go speak to God, and he makes it very visual. Of course, you don't speak directly to God, but everyone's waiting in line, and God sat there, and everyone comes one at a time. They come and they sit down, and then God has a piece of paper in front of him, and it has your name on the top of it. And now imagine you didn't really do much with your life. You were kind of like a bit lazy. You got a 9 to 5 job, and you didn't really you didn't change the world in any way. But you sit down, and God starts reading. He says, David Goggins. Like, he asks him, "Are you David Goggins?" He says, "Yeah, I'm David Goggins." He says, "Well, did you become a motivational speaker? Did you change the world around you? Did you change thousands of people's lives? Did you raise millions of pounds for charity? Did you build wells in Africa? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do that?" And David Goggins is like, "No, I didn't do any of that." He's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. You didn't do that. But this is what you should have done in your life. But instead, you decided to take the easy way out." Every single person on this call may be in a situation where God shows you what you should have become if you decided to stay disciplined, if you decided to do what was difficult. Are you willing to take the risk of taking the easy way out? And then on the day of judgment, God shows you, mate, this is the impact that you could have had on the world. But instead, you just decided to live a normal life because you didn't want to stay disciplined, and you missed out on all of this. Now, of that into perspective for me. Like, whoa, all right, I need to do what's hard, because on the day of judgment, I don't want Allah to pull up a list and say this is what you could have become. I wanna live to that expectation. I wanna live to that standard. Okay, we have a question here that says, how can we get out of our comfort zone? By Muhammad Mahdi. So how can we get out of our comfort zone? I mean, it is very simple. You do things that make you feel uncomfortable. It is that simple. I don't want to sugarcoat it anymore. You literally have to physically put yourself in situations where your knees are trembling, you're stuttering, you've got a frog in your throat where you can't say the words, where you're physically shaking because you're uncomfortable. You need to put yourself in situations which make you tremble out of fear. Why? Because Imam Ali says, إِذَا خِفْتَ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فَقَعْ فِيهِ. If you're afraid of something, then go throw yourself into it. Why? Because psychology, like all the psychological research now, has come to a conclusion where there's something called where the more you're exposed to something, the less you fear it. So the hadith from Ali 1,400 years ago, if you are afraid of something, then go to it. Now, research, the more you're exposed to the things that you fear, the less you begin to fear them. If you're really afraid of horror movies, I'm personally super afraid of horror movies, right? And I need to actually go and sit myself in front of the telly and watch a horror movie, because chances are I'm going to come out of that thinking, it wasn't even that bad. I might have a couple nightmares here and there, but it's not that bad. If I completely, for example, me, I broke my leg in half skiing when I was 16 years old. I didn't want to ski after that, but actually I thought, no, actually I do want to ski, because this is going to push me outside my comfort zone. 5 years later, I hit the slopes again. And when I was going down a red slope, which is the one before the black, I was getting like PTSD when I broke my leg. I could literally feel myself coming up to that comfort zone. I felt myself going into my stretch zone. I was like, oh my God, this is really uncomfortable. But that only lasted for about 30 seconds. Then that felt natural. Being on the red slope felt natural, because what happens when you step outside your comfort zone is your comfort zone starts to grow. Then what was uncomfortable yesterday now feels comfortable. And then you have to take an extra step even further, and then that will start feeling comfortable as well. And what you do is you slowly start to increase the size of your comfort zone. And before you know it, you're doing all these things that once upon a time you dreamed were impossible, and now they're possible because you're slowly expanding that comfort zone of yours, and you're starting to do things that you never thought you would be doing. Okay. Does that answer your question, Muhammad? Huda G says, suffering shouldn't be our goal, right? Our goal should be improvement, whether it comes from a path we find difficult or easy. Yeah, it doesn't make sense for suffering to be the goal, but suffering is the process. That's what I believe. I believe if you're like the process of this world is, at the end of the day, Allah's going to have a scale. And on this scale, you're going to have hasanat. And suffering is a very, very heavy thing to be putting on this scale. So if you're on Yawm al-Qiyamah, if you really want to be in the highest of heavens, then you need something really heavy on your scale. And the way I like to look at it is actually, if Allah gives me suffering in this life, He's just adding some really heavy stuff onto my mizan, and on the day of judgment, I'm going to reap the benefits of that. But I need to be patient. I need to hold strong now. The day of judgment is coming, and I'm going to reap the rewards of that. It's like one of my cousins. It's like one of my cousins actually. He felt like he was living a very happy life, like everything was just going well. And then when his first son was born, his son had Down syndrome, and I still remember when he realized that his son had Down syndrome, and at first he was heartbroken, but then he realized, he's like, wow, like Allah saw how much like I had lived life a bit too much before, and now He wants actually to start correcting my path for Yawm al-Qiyamah, so that on the day of judgment I have something that will wipe off sins and something that will add hasanat. And Alawi, who's the son with Down syndrome, is that gift that may cause him a bit of suffering in the meantime, but actually on the day of judgment, that's going to enrich his experience, because he has what seemed to be suffering in reality is a blessing if you choose to look at it as just something that's being added onto your scale. That's the perception that I have of suffering. It's not really suffering, it's a blessing. Any more questions? Otherwise, thank you so much for everyone for attending. I hope that was beneficial. If you learned from it, if you benefited from it, send me a message on Instagram. Let me know how you found it. Or there's feedback here. Actually, you can go to the feedback here and just pull out the feedback form. This is one of the first sort of Islamic lectures, talks that I do. Let me know how it went. I'm not, I would love to do more of these, but then again, it always comes with the caveat. I'm talking to myself first before I talk to any of you, because we all need reminders all the time. So thank you all for attending. I really appreciate you being here and listening. And inshallah, if you need anything, message me on Instagram, let me know, and I'm happy to help. Thank you so much. Ma salam.